Hi guys, welcome to my channel again. This is not a tattoo video. I know you can probably tell by the thumbnail, the Golden Freddy, and the title, but it's just another confirmation it's not a tattoo video. Today is gonna be the video that makes me get no bitches. Absolutely none. I will not get bitches after this video. Why? Why won't I get bitches? This video is gonna be all the basic lore of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise in the timeline order. Kate, can you shut the fuck up? Oh my god. Can I shut the fuck up and get into it? Okay. Five Nights at Freddy's begins with the fourth game. Okay. So the fourth game is the first one in the timeline. It was released in July of 2015, and it is one of the most coherent games in the franchise. And saying that is the biggest just kick in the ass I can imagine. The baseline facts we know from this game is it is 1983. That's when the Fredbear bite happens. And the 5 nights that we play are the 5 nights leading up to the crying child's birthday. Who is the crying child? We don't know, honestly. His name isn't Evan. We all call him Evan. His name isn't Evan. He doesn't have a name. He's called the crying child. We just all kind of accepted that his name is Evan. Which, honestly, I think that's fine. Who gives a shit? You know? But anyways, recently, it was revealed that the whole nightmare animatronic situation was caused by hallucinogenic gas that William Afton was releasing to his kid. Which is a little fucked up, you know? It's a little messed up to do to your kid, your youngest kid. Should also mention that it's not confirmed who we play as, but it's pretty accepted that we play as Evan. Just because Evan's the one who's scared of the animatronics. It's his birthday we're leading up to. There are Easter eggs during the nights where we see medical equipment, like IV stuff. It's not... There's no reason as to why William Afton released the hallucinogenic gas. Say that 10 times fast. But some people say it was to scare Evan away from the animatronics, like he did with Elizabeth and Sister Location. He knew what they were capable of, and he didn't want them around. But at the same time, this is before any of the murders. This is before, you know, William Afton knew what Remnant was. So it's like, why the fuck are you doing this, dude? There's honestly no reason at this point. With this being the first game in the actual timeline, there's no reason for it. But we just kind of accept that William Afton's just kind of a bitch, you know? So, hallucinogenic gas is what caused everything. There aren't these creepy animatronics that William Afton made and set loose in his house. That's not a thing. It's hallucinogenic gas. During the mini-games, there are a couple mini-games. There are, like, cutscene type ones. There's one with Plush Trap, which there's no real lore with that, I think. This is my theory. You know, some people are like, there's so much lore, what are you talking about? I don't think there's any lore with the Plush Trap, other than it's a scary Golden Bonnie thing, you know? Like, there's no actual lore. It's just a mini... Sometimes, y'all need to realize, sometimes there are just mini games. Not everything has to be about lore. Damn! But I think it does show that, you know, Evan was scared of the animatronics. He was scared of Golden Bonnie. He was scared of Fredbear. Like, all that shit. This is also with Fredbear's Diner. This is not Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. There's no Bonnie. There's no Chica. It's Golden Freddy and Golden Bonnie. Spring Bonnie, Fredbear. You know, those are the only two at this location. It's Fredbear's Diner. The other mini games is us walking through the Afton household as Evan, with Mike just scaring the shit out of us constantly, just popping out in a Foxy mask. Which is kind of, like, Freddy Fazbear's obviously exists, but it's not the main focus in this game, which I like. I like that. Like, Fredbear's is the first location. It's obviously the one that started everything, but they are starting to make the Freddy Fazbear cartoons that we see in later games as Easter eggs. Like, it's, you know, they kind of, it connects everything. But Mike obviously loves tormenting his brother, and at the birthday party, fight of 83 is caused by Mike. All that happens is Mike holds up Evan to the Fredbear animatronic. Springlocks. That's all that happens. And Evan goes into a coma, dies, possesses Fredbear. That's what leads to the possession of Fredbear. And that's basically it. That's basically it for Five Nights at Freddy's 4. A lot of people thought it was going to be the end, but it wasn't. So, all it sets up is that there's hallucinogenic gas, Springlocks, just Springlocks in its entirety, Spring Bonnie suit, Fredbear, all that stuff. It just kind of confirms everything we saw in the last game. Next up in the timeline is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was the start of this game actually becoming a franchise. Like, Scott Cawthon made the first FNAF game as just a last shot at game developing. He was like, this isn't working out so far. I have this one last idea. Let's see if it works out. So I really don't think he intended for the franchise to go anywhere where it did. So this was the start of some lore going on. This is the start of just more like little Easter eggs and clues and more story being added onto it. I also think he actually intended for this game to be a sequel, but just with how everything ended up, it ended up becoming a prequel. So it's confusing because there's withered animatronics, but it's a prequel to FNAF. It's weird, but we can ignore that for now. In this game, I think we play as the security guard named Jeremy Fitzgerald, which we love him, but he doesn't have much significance. All that he really gives is that he was the victim of the bite of 87 from Mangle, who... Okay, Mangle's a crazy... I'm gonna go off on a rant. Mangle is a crazy-ass character. Like, in the games, love them. Love them. But in the lore, it's so wild, because it was a toy, Foxy, and kids would just pull it apart, and they're like, yeah, this is the new attraction. Pull apart and put back together an animatronic. And that's wild. Why would you do that? What the fuck? But another thing is, there's a theory that we actually play as Mike in this game, which, okay, there are some things pointing to it. So, Five Nights at Freddy's takes place in Utah, Hurricane, Utah. In Utah, you have to be 21 to be a security guard, to be eligible, which could happen if Mike was like 17 in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. I don't believe this theory, but I feel the need to mention it just because I've seen a lot of people believe it and like talk about it. So I personally don't believe it just because there would be too many conflicting parts about it. Like, we could just accept that this random guy named Jeremy Fitzgerald, who got the frontal lobe of his brain bitten out, is a security guard. Okay? Okay. In the minigames, we also learn of William Afton's murders, like the children he killed. The first one, other than his own son, but that was like kind of indirectly, he killed his business partner, Henry Emily's daughter, Charlotte Emily, or Charlie, whatever you want to call her. I'm going to call her Charlie. And the security puppet, the marionette, possesses her. She possesses the puppet. She kind of acts like, River of Styx, like leading the next children's souls to the animatronics to possess. And, that's what leads everything to go on in the next games. Like FNAF 4, no possessions. None. This is when we actually see possessions. This is when we get into the supernatural shit, Spirits. Yeah. Next up is Sister Location. I know. We're not even at FNAF 1 yet. So, Sister Location is one of my favorite games in the franchise just because of how different it is. Like, this was the first game where we had an open world feeling. It wasn't open world. It wasn't. But we moved in the game. We walked around, we crawled around. And so I just think that taking everything into account with the actual game, it was such a revolutionary thing in this franchise. And I love it. But the story. It is confirmed you're playing as Michael Afton. Yeah! William Afton, this is a little bit of a theory on my end. William Afton sent Mike to the sister location, Circus Babies, party, rentals, whatever, to do something. They say it's to, like, retrieve Elizabeth from Circus Baby. Bitch. Whatever the reason was, he's the night guard, and he goes through all this shit with Circus Baby being possessed by his little sister Elizabeth. The whole story about that is this is when William Afton started seeing the remnant that could potentially make him immortal from the children. So he decides to keep killing children. He made these animatronics, the Funtime animatronics, were made to specifically kill kids. Specifically Circus Baby. The way she would kill the kids, she would lure them in with ice cream and then scoop them into her stomach and kill them. Which is what happened to Elizabeth. And there's, like, this whole thing where it's like, her eye color changed, and that's when she was, like, all this shit. But baseline story, Elizabeth possesses Circus Baby. There's no other possessions that are confirmed, and I guarantee I'm gonna get some hate for this theory, but I think William Afton's wife, who doesn't have a name, is possessing Ballora. It means absolutely nothing to the story. It adds no context. I just think it'd be so fucked up for them to add that his wife is possessing Ballora after he killed her. Then I think that adds something to the story. I don't know. It's my theory. Bitch. As you go through the night, you learn more about, Elizabeth possessing Circus Baby. You learn all this stuff. And then at the end, there's technically two different endings. One where you leave, but then Ennard still manages to go to your house. That one's, like, not really canon. The canon one, the super canon one, is Circus Baby takes you into the scooping room. Hello? The scooping room, where she explains that all of the animatronics there took their endoskeletons after they were scooped from their cases, formed Ennard, and we're going to scoop out Michael's insides and use him as a costume so they could go into the real world. Hey, Scott Cawthon? Yeah, what the fuck? Like, it's so gruesome. I love it for the horror aspect, but how the fuck do you come up with that? Hello? Anyways, obviously it doesn't work out. Mike starts rotting and decaying, and they're like, shit, we gotta get out of here. So Ennard goes into the sewers, but before that, Elizabeth gives him a little remnant, gives him a little life. So now Michael is a living corpse. And he's actually purple guy. He's the purple guy. in the little, after every night, he walks home, and he's the purple guy. He's purple. Oh, that was a dumb joke. Anyways, that's where that game ends off, with Michael being a decaying corpse, but still wanting to work for Freddy Fazbear's for some reason. And that's it. We are finally at Five Nights at Freddy's 1. After 4 games, after 3 games, we are at the first game in the franchise. Now, obviously, there's not a lot of lore in this one, because this was supposed to be a one-off try at game developing, okay? Everyone, we have to remember that. Like, this, not every game in the franchise has some big, deep lore meaning. Please! Anyway, so, in this game, it's as simple as the animatronics are possessed by these dead kids, and we learned that William Afton was the one who killed them, but he got away because he stuffed the dead bodies into the animatronics. And that's basically all we know for sure. Now, okay, you guys are gonna kill me for this. I think we play as Michael Afton, just straight off. I know the name says Mike Schmidt, but that could be for a number of reasons. Mike decided to become estranged from his dad because he knew what was going on. All this stuff could be happening behind the scenes, but I think we play as Michael Afton, first and foremost. There's also an Easter egg at the end where you get fired for an odor, and Mike is a decaying corpse. He's gonna smell bad. He needs a shower. Like, Axe body spray would be better than this. No, it wouldn't. I also think this game takes place in, like, the 90s. Like, after Bite of 87, after Bite of 83, after, you know, he's been decomposing. I think, like, this takes place pretty well into the 90s, early 90s, late 90s, whatever. Just in that decade. Other than all that, there isn't much to this game. Because, again, Scott Cawthon was like, this isn't working out. Game developing isn't working out. It did work out, but that's not important. So, you know, this one didn't have that much going on. Five Nights at Freddy's 3! Five Nights at Freddy's 3 takes place in 2023. Cray-cray! The whole story behind this one is these people decided to make a horror attraction based on, in their world, a real, like, homicide, like bad things, and make it into a horror attraction. But we don't need to question the morals of these people, because it's not that important to the game. All we know is there's a horror attraction now, and we're working there. They talk about, Phone Guy talks about how they actually found a real animatronic from Freddy Fazbear's, from Fredbear's Diner. And guess who that animatronic is? Springtrap. Now you're wondering, who's Springtrap? And if you're wondering that, do you know about Five Nights at Freddy's? Like, at all? The whole story of Springtrap is, after the killings, after Freddy Fazbear's, after all that was abandoned, William Afton went back. Damn! What the fuck? Guys, my camera moved. Try being an influencer for a day. Try it. Okay, you guys are gonna have to deal with that change. I'm sorry. Anyways, William Afton goes back to the pizzeria, and the ghosts of the dead kids are there, and they're like, hey, what the fuck was that? All those years ago, what the fuck was that? And they just push him into a corner. They're like, and he puts on the old Golden Bonnie suit to try and scare them, because that's what he killed them in. So it's like, you know, deja vu. But since the suit is so old and the spring locks are already just such an awful design, he obviously gets spring locked. Which sounds awful. Every single one of the locks that kept a space within the suit open just closed in on him, and he obviously died. No, he didn't. He didn't fucking die. He's in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 in 2023. Like, he's not dead. I think the remnant he was getting kept him alive, and the agony, that's another thing. Agony is just being so pissed off that you can't die. Which is how this fucking lore makes me feel. Anyways, throughout the game, the only animatronic actually after you is Springtrap. There are the phantom animatronics, which, that's a whole thing in itself. I don't know how to describe them. In my theory, in my head, I kind of like to think that it's the hallucinogenic... In my head, I like to think that it's the hallucinogenic gas making its return. But in reality, who knows what the fuck they are. All they do is pose a threat that you have to keep resetting all of these, like the ventilation system and all of this stuff. You have to keep resetting them because you keep freaking the fuck out over them. But there's not much until the end. You guys ready for this? I don't think you are. So you, as the night guard, you kind of accept the fact that you're gonna burn this place down. Which leads me to my next theory about this game. I think we play as Henry Emily. What? What do you mean by that? I mean, William Afton's old business partner saw this old haunted attraction boasting about how they got a real animatronic from Freddy Fazbear's, and he was like, what? So he went and worked there, and he's like, I'm gonna take care of this motherfucker once and for all and burn this place down. I'm gonna sacrifice myself so this bitch will die. And it doesn't fucking work! This doesn't kill him, but we're gonna get into that later. Okay? Okay. Ends with the fire. Everyone thought this was gonna be the last game because that's such a satisfying ending if they did die. Just, place burns down, that's the end of it. Nope! Pizzeria Simulator. Oh, no Pizzeria Simulator. What the fuck are you doing here? Pizzeria Simulator is exactly what it sounds like. You simulate running a pizzeria. You buy animatronics, you buy these games, you buy these attractions during the day. During the night, however, you have to sort out all this legal stuff, you know, and there's also these times where animatronics are found in the alleyway, and you do a little interrogation to see if you should fix them up or not. And guess who those are? There's one called Scrap Trap. Now listen, you know, I've been in this fandom for like 6 years, 7 years now. I've accepted that William Afton just won't die. The thing I'm pissed off about is his fucking design. Look at his head. Look at his head. Just take a look at it. You see what I mean? Fucking mega mind ass looking bitch. But that's not the point. There's also a Molten Freddy, which is the remainder of Ennard without Circus Baby. And they were just kind of like, hey, can you, like, leave? He's like, bye-bye. So, where's Circus Baby? She's now Scrap Baby, and honestly, she's iconic. Can I say that? Can I say that? Can I say that without getting hate? She's iconic, and I don't care. I don't care. But all of them are scrap animatronics. They've just found all these things in the alleyway, they've put themselves together, and now they're here because they've been led here. The mini games. There is a mini game that I haven't seen a single person actually be sure of what they think happens. It's called Midnight Motorist. Now I'm gonna have to actually read off my script. It begins with you driving a simple racing game. It's one of the games you buy during the daytime, and it's just a simple racing game. But then you end up on a dark and lonely road with no other cars. Spooky, I know. There's a spot where you can get out of the car, and it goes into an empty spot in the forest where it looks like there's a freshly dug up dirt pile. Could be like a grave, it could be just getting rid of something. I think it's a grave, because it's Five Nights at Freddy's. Then you continue driving and then end up at a building called Junior's. And the person outside says, come on, you know you can't be here, don't make this more difficult than it has to be. So you leave. You continue driving until you come up to a house, which is assumed to be like William Afton. It's the Afton house. You walk inside and there's a character sitting in front of the TV. As you continue on, you come across a door, and the character you're playing as gets mad the person locked the door. You go around the house to see the window broken and large footprints leading away. And that's where it fucking ends. You see why it's so difficult to figure out? Like, you see this shit? Like, it's... Anyways, here's my theory. Theory time! I think it's obvious we play as William Afton. I think it's obvious it's probably right after the bite of 83 where Evan dies. I think, you know, everyone's grieving, everyone's just having a rough time. And I think the person at Junior's is possibly Henry Emily. It could be one of the side businesses they made, because there's a lot of locations in this game. There's Fredbear's, there's Circus Babies, there's Freddy Fazbear's. Like, there's a lot of locations, and I wouldn't be surprised if Junior's was just another restaurant they made. I think the person sitting in front of the TV is obviously Mrs. Afton. I mean, there's no other person it could be. And then the person who runs away is probably Mike. I don't think it's Elizabeth, But I'm hesitant to say it's Mike because there's a possibility it could be before the bite of 83 and it could be Evan. But I don't really think that's a thing. There are some people who think that, but I don't think there's enough proof to show that it's Evan. There's not enough proof to show that it's anything, you know? But I think there's more proof pointing to the fact that it's Michael rather than it's Evan. And I mean, there's some people who have said it's Elizabeth and the large footprints is Circus Baby. And I can honestly see that. I can see that. The Funtime animatronics were made to be rented out and like being able to move freely. So the idea of Circus Baby being able to walk over there and like lead her out, I can see that 100%. I just don't know. Can I just not know? Can I not know? Can you let me not know? Thank you. God. I adjusted the light. I don't know if it looks different. With the idea of it being Mike, I think the big footprints, it's obviously an animatronic that the footprints are. Like, that's just the thing. For Mike, it could be Golden Freddy after Evan possessed him. That's a thing that could happen, you know? And it has the same, you see the little, it has the same, like, footprint that Golden Freddy has. So, it could really point any way, kind of. But I think, personally, it's Mike who ran away, Evan, in the possessing Golden Freddy, led him away. I think that's what happened. Now, that's the only minigame that really has that punch of lore. That's a dumb way to put it. The majority of the lore lies at the end. There is a speech that Henry Emily gives that's fucking... in a Five Nights at Freddy's game. Okay, in a Five Nights at Freddy's game, this speech... it deserves to be in a movie. Like, genuinely. It's such a good speech, and it would have been such a good way to end the franchise. And, okay, I'm not saying I'm mad that they kept going with it. I'm just saying there were so many good points to stop. But basically, he gives his speech, and the building gets set on fire. Pizzeria Simulator gets set on fire. And Scrap Trap actually does burn up, but his spirit doesn't. The building gets set on fire with everyone in it. Mike, I think we played as Mike Afton. He's in it. Like all the animatronics, there's everyone in there gets burned up. And the children, their souls are released. It's finally done. Except it isn't. Okay, Ultimate Custom Night. I know this is a weird thing to bring up in a lore video. Okay, I know some of you are going to be like, oh, this makes sense. But there's bound to be some people who are like, what the fuck are you doing? Ultimate Custom Night, see, is a simple challenge game. But there is actual lore that some people pointed out in it. So, this is going to be a very short part. I think Cassidy never let go of her grudge against William Afton, which is reasonable. And so, as a torture method, to torture him, she made this infinite loop of him just fighting off all the animatronics he's made, all the spirits, all the children he's killed, forever and ever. And that's it. You know, that's all this segment is gonna be. Help Wanted was a surprise, to say the least. It was originally just supposed to be a VR game, VR adaptation, VR versions of all the previous games, some mini games included. Like, that's all it was supposed to be. And then they added lore. So let me talk about the base. First VR game, it was made by Steel Wool Studios, which they have done, in my opinion, amazing jobs on the games. You know, Security Breach was hit or miss, but everything else they've done an amazing job. And with the studio change, Scott Cawthon decided to add himself into his own lore. It's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. So, basically what happened is, it's not like in the future. And Freddy Fazbear's Entertainment is like, listen, there's this guy named Scott Cawthon making games about our old franchises, but they're getting money. They're getting a lot of plays. So let's hire him to, like, help create this VR game and make more money. So That's what they do. So basically what happens is they make the VR game and you play as a playtester named Vanessa. Throughout the game, you get little messages and hints that show that there was another playtester before you who said, like, there's a glitch in this game. There's a glitch in this game. We have to fix it. Like, do that. But when the creators of the game looked at it, they were like, there's not a glitch. What are you talking about? You'll never guess who it is! William Afton took his consciousness, put it into fucking game files, somehow, some way, and the creators of the game used it to save time, so now he's in the game. The previous playtester ends up cutting his own face off because of it. And Vanessa eventually gets not possessed. Mind control? Glitch Trap gets into her brain and is like, you're gonna do all this shit for me. Okay? She's like, yep. And then Vanny is born. Now, who the fuck is Vanny? Leading into Security Breach, we have this knowledge that there's a Vanny character, that Springtrap is back in a form we call Glitch Trap. Like, we all know that. And Security Breach kind of tried to bring that more together. There was so much taken out of the game that it doesn't make as much sense as it would have if they just left all that in the game, which I'm upset about. I'm gonna be honest, I was upset about it, but can't really do much about it. In Security Breach, you play as a random-ass kid named Gregory who sneaks into the Mega Pizzaplex, a fucking mall that they made for Freddy Fazbear, and you work with Glamrock Freddy to get out of there. During the night, you just take out fucking Glamrock Chica, 2 new animatronics called Roxanne Wolf and Montgomery Gator, who replaced Foxy and Bonnie. Miss Foxy! Anyways, Gregory just fucking takes them out. Just fucking, oh, you're in my way? I'm gonna fucking kill you. He's the devil reincarnated. Now, as for mini games, there's not like crazy ones. A lot of them make sense for where they are. There's a golfing mini game that doesn't have any lore implications. There's more just Easter eggs. There's Princess Quest, which leads to the idea of the whole Vanessa being just possessed by Glitch Trap, and us freeing her, which leads into an ending, but there's not much. The endings, however, there's 7 of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'm just going to talk about the 2 that are important. There is the Save Vanny ending and the Burn Trap ending. There's a new fucking trap. There's a new trap. There's a new variation of this fucking bitch-ass motherfucker. It's a lot. So, in the Save Vanny ending, you do just that. You save Vanny. You take the Glitch Trap virus out of her brain. You make way with Vanessa and Freddy's head. Which is important. The fact that you only make it out with Freddy's head is very important. He gets disassembled, and his head is the only thing salvageable. That's very important. The Burn Trap ending is the one people took as the canon ending because it was the only one where every animatronic needed to be disassembled. It's the only one that had a 3D animated cutscene. Like, there's a lot of things pointing to it being the canon ending. But it might not be. Basically, what happens is you go down into the basement and you find the pizzeria simulator pizzeria. Like, it's just underneath Security Breach, the Megaplex. It's just underneath there. And in there is a burn trap. There's a lot of theories as to what it actually is, if it's actually Springtrap. I think it could go either way. I think it could be the Mimic or Springtrap, which I know Who's the Mimic? I'll explain later, okay? I'll explain later. Just shut the fuck up. It's important for me to mention it, though. But right now, we're just going to be referring to him as Springtrap, okay? 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 Thank you. Burntrap, you set him on fire, and then you make it out of the pizza... You make it out of the Pizzaplex as it burns down. That's what happens in that ending. And people just took it as canon because A, Springtrap's back, but, you know, he practically died. I mean, and it would make sense that Vanny would be putting together a physical form for Springtrap because, you know, he was just in the digital age. But I don't think this is the canon ending. Because Ruin was the free DLC added to Security Breach 2 years later, and I think it was needed. Okay, I'm gonna say that right now. I think it was needed. We play as Cassie, one of Gregory's friends, after Gregory supposedly sent us a message being like, hey, get to the abandoned Pizzaplex. I'm there, and I need help. So Cassie goes, and she finds the ruined remains of the Pizzaplex and makes her way through, seeing all the gross, nasty-ass animatronics and just everything about everyone is awful, and it's... Ugh. Also, throughout the game, we find out about a Vanny mask. V-A-N-N-I, not with a Y. And whenever you put on this mask, you go into an AR world. It's a digital world. And as you go through, you get rid of these security nodes because Gregory said he needs them to be off in order to escape. So you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. So you turn them off, but as you're going through, there's this rabbit-looking guy. His name is MXES, but he resembles a rabbit, which is just... We all think he's bad because rabbits in the past have been associated with bad things. Springtrap, Glitchtrap, like all of them. Rabbits have just been something not good. But he's actually protecting the world? Basically, what ends up happening is you turn off all the security nodes, you kill Roxy, but you don't. I don't know what that's about. And then you go downstairs to get Gregory, and it's not Gregory. It's the Mimic. I mentioned him earlier. You remember that? Yeah, you remember that? The Mimic is a character from the books, and I haven't read the books. I'm not going to be talking about the books in this video. I'm sure at some point I'll make a video about it, but it's not happening today. The Mimic basically just it mimics things. Like, that's what it is. But it's also evil, obviously. So basically, it just tricked you into releasing it, and the actual Gregory leads you to an elevator where he explains everything, and then is like, we can't risk the Mimic coming up here. So he kills Cassie, supposedly. I don't know. He just drops the elevator, and then it cuts to black. That's all that happens. Some of the Easter eggs, all they do is connect the games with the books even more. There's a part during the chase where you can see circus-looking animatronics. Well, costumes, more specifically. And nowhere in the previous games have we seen a circus other than, like, Circus Baby. But these are, like, full-on circus animatronics. And everyone was like, where the fuck are they from? Like, we've never seen this. And it turns out it is from the books. There's one of the books where they go to a circus, and it is a parallel to the games. And so I think all that does is connect the book lore with the game lore, which is just... The last thing we needed is more lore to learn. Before Ruin came out, I was like, the book lore is just something entirely different. You know, it's books made for kids just barely getting into Five Nights at Freddy's, and they need something to fill up their reading log with. So I never took any interest to them. And now I do! Man, this shit sucks. Help Wanted 2! Yippee! Help Wanted 2, as I'm recording this video, is the newest addition to the franchise. It is a second VR game that focuses more on the security breach games. It has more security It has more security breach based mini games. My favorite one is the son, and you're doing art because he's just so bitchy. Love it. Throughout the entire thing, the place where you pick the games, like pick which game you're gonna play, it is the pizzeria simulator. Pizzeria. Like, it's much nicer. But that's where you are. Like, that's just without a doubt. And as you go on through, eventually you are able to open this, like, supply closet or whatever it is. And in there is a Princess Quest game and one of the nodes that, like, restricted you from taking off your mask in Ruin. Whatever. Not whatever, though. Basically, if you turn off that little security thing that restricts you from removing a mask, you're able to remove your mask. We didn't even know we were wearing a mask. What the fuck? And when you take it off, it's revealed that it is the pizzeria simulator location, but it's underneath the megaplex. It's all decrepit and abandoned. It's gross. It's dirty. And we're like, whoa! Hold on there, buckaroo! But that's basically it for the actual game. It is just VR versions of the mini games. That's all it is. The only lore is more just confirmations of theories we had. Now there are like two endings I want to mention. First one is the normal ending, where you just go through everything and then you take off the mask, blah blah blah. At the end, there's an animatronic charging pod, and it opens, but there's a human hand that comes out, and then you get bombarded by security bots. It then cuts to a cutscene where you are handing Cassie the Vanny mask, which is directly from Ruin. Like, that's what happened in Ruin. Which is... It's hard to really read something from that, in my opinion. I mean, I could say some batshit crazy theory, like, we play as Cassie's dad, which actually isn't batshit crazy. In Ruin, Cassie was like, my dad works at Freddy Fazbear's. He works at the Pizzaplex. And so, it could be Cassie's dad is one of the last human workers at the Pizzaplex, and this is, like... It's very morbid when you really think about it. Like, oh, Cassie's dad is the bot that hands her the mask. It's very morbid. But it is technically a possibility. But, you know. The second ending I want to mention, the only other ending, is the secret ending, which is done by playing the Princess Quest game in the closet. After completing it, you get to see a scene where Vanny crushes a little glitch trap, which is more just saying that she is free from the glitch trap virus. There's also a weird part where it's like a claw machine. It's a total fever dream. But all this did was confirm a lot of the theories we had about Ruin, about security breach, about all that. So there's not much lore to be taken from it, which I think is fine. I think that's fine. I think I would rather have a confirmation about all that stuff than just have more theories to tack on to this fucking franchise. But whatever. This would not be a lore video without talking about the new movie that came out in October of 2023. In the movie, the star of the show, Mike Schmidt, is played by Josh Hutcherson. And William Afton's played by Matthew Lillard. Those are my two, like, favorite actors. Not just because they're hot, but they're also just really good actors. Josh Hutcherson, you know, everyone's like, you know, but he is a fantastic actor. So is Matthew Lillard. Like, they've done fantastic things. In the movie, they changed a lot of bullshit things to change. The whole storyline of the movie is Mike Schmidt has a little sister named Abby, which is obviously parallel to Mike and Elizabeth, and he's trying to keep custody of her from their aunt because she's a bitch and just wants the money. Oh my god. Why's my hair doing that? Has my hair always been like that? Oh my god! And in order to make enough money to be able to keep custody of his sister, he gets a job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria as the night guard for the abandoned place. And it's really funny because Matthew Lillard is the career counselor. You know, he's the one that helps him. And there's a scene where I have different theories for. When Mike Schmidt is like, you know, I need a job, give me a job. And Matthew Lillard is like, okay, Mike Schmidt. Like, he takes a pause after reading the last name. And I think that could be taken in many... I am obviously a firm believer in William and Mike being father and son. That just adds so much tension and just finesse in the lore that I can't bear to live without that idea. But I did see one theory that was kind of interesting. They basically said that Mike Schmidt could be Henry Emily's son if they changed like Henry Emily's name to Henry Schmidt. And I do like that theory because the way they put it, it was like when he said last name, William Afton was like looking for his old business partner, and I like how they put it a lot. And I think that is very possible because they changed the lore so much. I do like that idea, but I'm still firm in my stance that they're father and son. As well as, you know, Abby and Mike. Mike also has a lost little brother named... The whole point of having that, he sleeps a lot. Like that, no, it's important because it's the dream theory where like if you see something you never forget it, and so you can like dream about it, and so he always dreams about it to try and find like who kidnapped his brother when they were little, like because he blames himself for it. And the dream theory is also connected back to Five Nights at Freddy's 4, because there was a theory that everything that was happening was just a dream, either by Evan or Mike. It doesn't really matter. But I love, it doesn't like matter too much. I just love that they like put that in. Anyways, they find out that the animatronics are possessed. Abby is she fucking is a guru with these fucking animatronics. She has drawn pictures for them, communicating with them, and they fucking love her. But towards the end, they get like really malicious and evil. And it turns out that Vanessa, the security guard, like the police officer, she's a police officer, she reveals that she is William Afton's daughter. Well, then how does that make sense with everything else? This theory that I'm about to mention is from my mother. So, Mama, if you're watching, first off, why are you watching my videos? I don't like it when people I know watch my videos. But also, thank you for this theory, Mama. So, when we left the movie theater, she mentioned how she thought if William Afton kidnapped Vanessa when she was young, he could trick her into thinking that he was her actual father. Because then she would actually help him with everything that he was doing. Help him with the murders, help him with everything. And I love that fucking theory so much. Because then it makes my theory plausible. In the end, they do possibly the best adaptation of the Springlock scene that I could have imagined in a film. They did it almost shot for shot, with the spirits circling William Afton and him putting on the suit and then getting spring-locked. Because of the fucking cupcake. Carl the Cupcake, he is just a monster in the movie. It's so funny. It ends with the spring-lock scene and then like a scene of Vanessa in the hospital after getting stabbed and all this stuff. And that's the movie, which, you know, the lore could have been better. But overall, I think they did a good job with the movie. I think it was done by Blumhouse, which it could have been a hit or miss, but I think it was a hit. I think also just being in the fandom for so long and finally having like a major motion picture of this game, fucking wild to think about. But that's the basic lore along with some of my theories. So Subscribe. This sucked to film, so please subscribe.